motion concerning the minutes?
Motion approved.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November meeting. And a second, all in favor? Okay. Our agenda this evening, the first item is a variance request at East South Street, and this is a carryover from the November meeting.
Hello, thank you. Don Larison, I was here last month with this, and we ran into some concerns of a neighbor, mainly worried about the drainage in the area. And we've done a little investigation, and I feel like we've done our homework, and would like to make a few proposals, and also highlight the fact that the land actually it doesn't drain as consistently in that area as I thought it did on first look. If you look at Mooresville in the overall drainage patterns, you could almost take a bowl and flip it upside down, and you could put Indiana Street in the middle at the top and Main Street at the center of the top, and the daggone town pretty much drains outward, just like if you poured a pot of water on top of the bowl. And if you think about the downhill nature of North Indiana Street and then South Indiana Street, and then both sides of Main Street also run sharply downhill. I said at the meeting that it was my interpretation that part of Mooresville drained primarily south and east toward White Lick Creek. And it does, if you look at the town on the whole. The overall drainage pattern is decidedly southerly and easterly in that area. But when I got looking at it a little closer, because we were going to develop a site plan where we would probably do some underground piping and possibly a French drain, as Mr. Allman mentioned, we were going to get fancy with it and guarantee that we wouldn't drain onto that east adjoiner. Well, I got looking at the specific drainage pattern right in the area, and I would like to pass out the GIS contours for you. This is the county's website. You'll notice that sure enough, from Main Street and then further down to South Street and further south then toward the alley that we front on, it's pretty sharply downhill to the south and then also gradually to the east. And to think about that in your mind, I want for you to envision the parking lot at the funeral home. I mean, water hits that and just races down toward our property, which fronts on the first alley south of High Street. But if you look at our property, and I highlighted it in a dark marker, it's that north part of Lot 1 and Block 50. You'll notice that there's a belly. There's a sag in that part of town. And I looked at that, and sure enough, I went out and looked at it, and it definitely does have a bit of a belly right in this area. The land falls sharply from the funeral home south to the alley, and then in order to combat that belly, the town has put in a series of drainage inlets, simply because the water won't move without it. It has to have somewhere to go. I've got 3 copies of this. I'm not used to it. But if you notice, I want you to look at the spot elevations. You'll see that there is a ditch inlet, storm inlet, at the northwest corner of what we call Lot 1, and that is the proposed site where we're proposing the two-family structure. There's a ditch inlet right in the corner where the two alleys meet. There's another one right straight across the street at the southeast corner of the funeral home. And then I'll be darned, I got looking a little closer, and there's another one 90 feet west here. I don't know if any of you guys went out and looked at that during the 3 or 4 weeks since the last meeting, but that means a lot. That means that in the town of Mooresville's estimate, placing those drains there would drain that belly that our property sits on. And if you look at those spot elevations that we took, the east neighbor actually drains to the west to a low spot right where we're proposing to put that double. And that part, that area, tends to sit and be wet. Okay? It's a little bit of a low area. We can raise it a couple of feet. We should raise it a couple of feet if we're going to build this double. And we can make all of that water from our lot go to that ditch inlet at the intersection of the two alleys. When we raise that, that is the preferred course for the water to drain. That's what the town had in mind when they placed those inlets. And we're also prepared to go one step further and offer to tie our roof drains, gutters, into that storm drain as well. That way we really are limiting any drainage that will leave our site to zero. There is a little bit that leaves that site now. If you take a look right along our lot line, a little area that will drain to the west. By tying those downspouts to the storm drain, that will eliminate any of that going off to the west. And again, I want to point out that on the east of Joyner's property, Whittington, you'll notice that from mid-lot, it drains in this direction, right there to that drainage inlet. So what I'm trying to tell you is we were going to spend the 3 weeks or 4 weeks between the meetings developing a little bit more sophisticated drainage plan in order to alleviate Mr. Whittington's concerns. But the work, the investigation that we did helped us to realize that it's not going to take much. It already drains to those two inlets, and we will help for it to further drain by tying our downspouts to the storm sewer. I'd welcome Mr. Bennett's comments on this as the...
That would have to be clear with Dave, to be totally honest, because he knows the sizes and everything else of the pipe.
Sure.
But other than that, it's possible along the pipe there, the size.
So, and then I'll just remind you that we were here for 3 ordinances. The front setback, the ordinance calls for 40 feet. We talked about the reason why the ordinance calls for 40 feet. In a brand new subdivision, they want to be able to stack 2 cars in front of a new house in the driveway and not be out on the street. Our parking is beside the units. We've got ample parking without parking right in front of the unit. And that allows us to be a little closer. And remember, we're also 19 feet from the edge of pavement. One other quick thought about that. In a typical subdivision, brand new residential subdivision, my thought is you're going to have, about a 30 mile an hour speed limit on a residential road. We're on a on an alley right at an intersection. Incredibly low speed area. So there's a lot of reasons why it'll work. The other variances that we were asking for was the rear yard setback. The ordinance calls for 30. We are asking for 20. And the total impervious area, the ordinance calls for 25%. That is unworkable. Right in town, that's just not, that's not a viable number. If you've got a 10,000 square foot lot, even in a brand new subdivision, if you've got a 10,000 square foot lot, you put a 2,500 square foot house on it, you can't build a driveway, you can't build sidewalks, you can't build a swimming pool. So I'm going to kind of stay in Tammy's ear about this for the next round of changes that the town might consider, because we are going to spend a lot of time in here if we don't change that number. For nearly every brand new lot in a subdivision, we're going to be over that number. So
You said you were asking on the rear yard setback, you were asking to go from 30 to what?
we've got two rear yards. One of the setbacks is 20 and the other is 6.
Okay.
The one that is 6 is your typical side yard, however.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you hadn't changed the numbers from the previous application.
No.
Okay, I'm clear now, thank you.
That's what I had for you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I will remind you that this was approved by the Plan Commission to replat this lot. It is a lot of record. We're here tonight asking for these variances because we want to build a little bigger unit on it. If we are unable to get the variances, we will simply downsize the unit and build a smaller building. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience about this variance request? From the board? Questions, comments? Charles?
I got one for John. You mentioned about raising the house two blocks higher. Is that in the writing someplace, or how are you going to include that in your?
We would be happy to. It's going to have to be raised. The exact number, I'd like to probably talk with Dave before I would say exactly, because that will be up to him and probably his brick mason, but it is going to be raised. It just wouldn't make sense to leave it where it is now, Charles, because that particular spot is a bit of a low spot.
How we can guarantee it's going to happen?
Well, I can tell you he wouldn't want to build it and have water in the crawl space, or if he built it on a slab, water would run in the front door. But I would hate to say with certainty and give you a certain number of block. I feel very comfortable with saying that the finished floor will be raised at least 16 inches above the existing grade. To 8-inch. Yeah, I can't imagine them not, so I will commit to that.
So you're gonna raise the building. You're gonna raise the grade of the lot, you said.
Just right on the building footprint. Beyond that, we're going to grade that lot so that the water hits the alleyway to the north. That's where the water currently goes, and that's where we want the water to go in the future. And with a little bit of fill, probably feathered back toward the existing house, we can make that happen very efficiently. Neil, just to help you with this, having that inlet at that grade at the intersection of those two alleys just allows the whole thing to work. The town placed that there, that ditch inlet there, because it's the natural low spot, and anything we do raising any other raising the elevation at any other point will just expedite the flow of the water toward that ditch inlet.
Let's see. You mentioned, and boy, I hate to do this, but you mentioned something about maybe reducing the size of the structure.
Yeah, I tell you, we really do not want to do that.
And I can understand that. I really do. But it sure would be, and I've done a little research in the last couple of weeks too. And, I've asked, why did you guys make these small lots? And it was so they could be developed, like, as you said. But it's like we're putting 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound bag. And the feedback I got was, we had no intention of a multifamily or a large dwelling, I guess. And that this was all just conversations that I've had. So I appreciate that your client wants to invest in Mooresville. I do, but I don't know that that's again. I think that's, as far as the setbacks, it's asking for a lot for a part of town that might be a little bit crowded anyway. I've driven down there. It does feel, I'm not going to say claustrophobic. It does feel like the lots are small, and I don't know if having a large dwelling on a small lot like that, I don't know if that's what their intention was, and that's what I'm trying to do. When they set the zoning and the rules, I'm trying to figure out what their intention was, and I don't want to change the rules on the neighbors, and I don't want to change the rules on what they were wanting to do with the development.
My thought on that is, these lots were developed and platted in 1860, and when they platted those, they platted them 200 feet long, because every house had a home, a garden, a toilet, and a carriage house. Okay, and then you had the alley behind them, but they were 200 feet long. They were living on nearly a third of an acre, because people were living, it was sustenance living. You had to grow your own food.
Right, we're self-sufficient, sure.
And that's just not the reality today. This is an urban environment. You say that it's claustrophobic, but it's downtown. I mean, we've got our sanitary sewers here. We've got our storm sewers. We've got our water. We've got every utility known to mankind right here in town, and we're still mowing the back 2/3 of our lots. No garden, no outhouse, no stable. We don't have any of those things anymore. So that is why we're coming to you on a semi-regular basis, asking for these kinds of replats, and as a course of the replat, also a variance, because I mean, if you're gonna build it, people want to build as big a structure as they can. If it's not a structure, it's being mowed. So it's downtown living. I mean, we kind of tend to think of Mooresville as a country environment, but the downtown area, if you take a look there on those aerial photos, a lot of buildings, a lot of double buildings. The next door neighbor, in fact, Mr. Whittington, has a 30 by 12 barn behind his house. Again, a lot of pavement, a lot of rooftop there, and it's downtown. So I'll leave you with that. And
I appreciate your research on the drainage. It helps a lot. It does, it helps a lot. And again, you've probably satisfied 80% of my concern about that, but I do, just the conversations that I've had, my impression was the intention was a smaller dwelling for the smaller lot. So that's, the drainage, like I said, you answered most of that for me.
thank you.
Okay, I will look for are there any other questions or comments from the board? Any other questions or comments from the audience? Yes, Tim.
Confusion on that.
The 6-foot variance is needed because we're facing the unit toward the west. The actual rear yard setback is what is typically the side yard in the town of Mooresville. And
So this is the front of the building.
this is the front, this is
So the rear setback
rear.
is supposed to be 30 and you're wanting it to be 6.
Yes.
Okay. So
Whereas the typical setback against this alley would be, if this was the rear yard, it would be 30 feet. And so we are effectively placing the building 20 feet from the lot line, which, I'll also point out, the reason we're doing that is so that none of the parking is in the alley. If you go down there, you realize that a lot of people park their vehicles in the alley. This development, that's not required. We've got enough room there to do all of the parking within the lot, none of it touching the alley.
So the variance says the 12-foot front setback instead of 40, correct?
Yes,
Rear yard setback 6.
at a 30.
As long as the variance says what it says here, I don't care what it's to the park, to the drive, that doesn't mean nothing to me or anybody else here. It's the property lines where we're going to, and it's 12 feet. That's what I was confused about. When Tammy asked, I was confused why you said, well, some of it's 12 or 20. Well, that's not possible, it's a rectangle.
The fact that the unit is facing what is typically the side yard just throws all that off in the way you usually think that.
Okay, and you've got lot 1, 6,000 square feet. That's the lot size. That's not the building size.
It is. The building itself is 2,400 square feet. It's roughly 40 by 60.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments from the audience? Any questions or comments from the board?
I'm curious, so what is you said the square feet would be how much again? 2,000? For the unit itself. And this is for,
1,200 square foot, 2-bedroom structures.
this is for, remind me because I can't recall. Is this a mother-in-law's quarters?
No, it's
or-
a two-family structure.
Okay,
It is zoned R2 by the Plan
okay,
Commission.
all right. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, I will look for a motion on this variance request at East South Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the request, which will include the 3 variances and also the connection of the drainage to the storm sewer, and that the floor level will be approximately 16 inches above grade.
Okay, so I just want to understand, so they need to get with the town and line up the storm drains directly into the storm drain, right, before it's approved. Okay, so I have a motion to approve the variance, the three variances as written, including an elevation increase
16 inches minimum.
16
16 inches.
16 inches above this existing grade of the street. What do you,
Ground level.
16 inches above, okay, ground level.
And tie the roof drains
Yeah.
to the, is that what you want?
Yep.
And to tie the roof drains of the structure to the storm drainage system of the town. Is that what you're looking for, Charles? Okay, so I have a motion to approve with those conditions.
I'll second.
And a second, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, passes.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
John.
much.
Sure.
Next on our agenda this evening is a special exception request at 335 South Indiana Street.
Evening. My name's Ryan Lindley with Banning Engineering, 853 Columbia Road, Plainfield. What we have here for you this evening is bringing a current legally non-conforming use up to current regulations. It is in the B2 district. As part of the B2 district, a liquor store it takes a special exception as far as use. As we all know, it's a liquor store now. Been that way for several years. The intentions here is he wants to rebuild. He likes the area, of course, and he, meaning Ryan Wallace, he's the owner of the store. He sends his apologies. He's at a funeral this evening. Back where I was. So what his intentions are, he wants to rebuild, leave the store open, and rebuild behind it. Okay, so new structure, get rid of the old structure after the new structure has its occupancy. But what we're here for tonight is the first step, and that is to make this a legal conforming use. That's why we're requesting the special exception. I'm happy to entertain any questions in that regard.
Are there any questions or comments from the audience for this special exception? Any questions or comments from the board? Brian, I got a couple, if you could. So what size building? Is it going to be 5,200?
I do have what we're looking at now. Stuck with me. Yeah, about 5,700. Yeah.
How many square feet is there now? Do you know?
It's pretty close to that, a little less. There's several different buildings or additions that's been put on it. It's very, very unorganized.
And to get, to be, I guess to meet the zoning ordinance, a liquor store needs to be in B3, correct?
I believe that is where it is.
Is there a reason that you don't go to the board and ask for B3 zoning?
There's B2 all around it. It fits with the area.
Okay, but, so you don't want to go and request a B3 zoning, because you've got a liquor store operating there now, and it's grandfathered in.
It was advised by staff to ask for the special exception. Mhm.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments from the board?
We've been talking a lot about lot lines. I know it doesn't have anything to do with this request.
Well,
How big is the lot?
I think it's Are you gonna request any kind of, we're putting the cart way before the horse. Are you gonna request any
That'll be for,
zoning variances?
Yeah. the current plan meets all setbacks.
And this is gonna be a one-story building?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll look for a motion on this special exception request at 335 South Indiana.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve
I'll second that.
and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Is there any new business before the board this evening? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn
Second.
and a second. All in favor? Thanks, guys.